Wild birds and animals lend an element of wonder and magnificence to our lives, but when they get into trouble, when they're injured or orphaned or distressed, they often need our help. Volunteers for Wildlife responds to 5,000 to 6,000 calls from the public every year about distressed or injured or orphaned wildlife. We give over 100 educational programs annually, and a couple times a month we appear at community events or fairs or festivals with our wildlife.
Volunteers for Wildlife was founded by Sally Rupert. Sally was a World War II nurse who came home and started doing wildlife rehab out of her garage well over 30 years ago. Fast forward to today, we have a wonderful facility, a hospital and outdoor aviaries. We have 3 paid full-time staff and 1 paid part-time.
My background is in zoology as well as in education. I am a New York State licensed wildlife rehabilitator as well as the permit holder for Volunteers for Wildlife's U.S. Fish and Wildlife Migratory Bird Rehab Permit.
I'm Alicia Grubesi. I'm the Assistant Wildlife Center Supervisor at Volunteers for Wildlife. I have a background in biology, and I'm also a New York State licensed wildlife rehabilitator. One of the greatest parts of my job is being able to see an animal improve. So whether that means an animal starts to eat on its own, or stand on its own, or starts to fly a couple feet, it's really incredible to see an animal make daily improvements and know that they're on the way to recovery and eventually freedom. If the animal is in need of assistance, we ask the public to safely contain the animal and bring it to our center. If they can't do so, we ask them for their location and we dispatch a volunteer to go rescue the animal and bring it back to our center.
You find yourself in situations where you ask to people who really don't know what to do with a wild animal that's stressed, and you have to figure it out when you get there. And so it's always really rewarding when you can get an animal safely transported to the hospital. At Volunteers for Wildlife, we do 4 separate things, and they're all interconnected. We rescue wild animals, we rehabilitate them at our hospital, we release them, and we do education. All of them are vitally important.
Every animal that is admitted to Volunteers for Wildlife is given a thorough examination on admission. We try to keep the examinations very short to about 2 minutes or less so we don't add added stress to the animal. We basically will weigh the animal, we'll determine what any of their injuries are by going through them from top to bottom, from their head to the tail, examining every part to make sure that everything is working the way it should. If we do find any injuries, the animal will be medicated, they'll be treated accordingly, brought to our veterinarian if needed for x-rays and blood work, and then from there we take notes on the whole process to make sure that we remember what happened with the animal when we're going back to it later on. And then from there we're able to assign the treatment protocol for the animal for its length of its rehabilitation.
At this moment, 140 animals that are being rehabbed and 32 who are permanent. Every one of those animals has to be cleaned, has to be fed, has to have their habitat cleaned, the laundry has to be done, and this is done by volunteers.
What I love about birds of prey is the way they look and the way they act. They're regal, they're powerful, they're beautiful. They're predatory birds, but they're not aggressive and they're not wasteful in their habits. And now that I get to work with them and hold them on my wrist and walk around with them and educate people about them, it's a life's dream. I couldn't be happier. I love releasing and I love rescuing animals.
Our volunteers are dedicated, loyal, and compassionate. They're from different backgrounds, different age groups, and they come together and work together and make our organization fantastic.
I have always wanted to work with animals, and this has given me the perfect opportunity to work with them and learn about them. I enjoy working here because it is personally rewarding to be part of the rehabilitative process of the animals that we treat. We have many different species here, and they each require their own dietary requirements. So we follow specific menus so that these animals get the proper nutrition while they're here.
And I have to put away the laundry, do the dishes, do the bleach bucket, put Buster away, feed the owls, and bring in the ducks.
Listen, I've been doing laundry all day long. I said I've been doing the laundry. I haven't been able to fold it, but I've been putting it from the washing machine into the dryer. Whatever few minutes you get, you've got to multitask. Otherwise, nothing can get done. None.
As a wildlife educator, I believe it's very important that we reach out to the children to encourage appreciation for wildlife conservation and also the diverse wildlife that we have here on Long Island. We use permanent resident animals for the programs. These are animals that can't be released because of injuries or their condition. They wouldn't be able to survive in the wild. When we first arrive at the school and the animals are taken out of their transport cases, the children are basically mesmerized. On a part of the animals, they know it's showtime. And it's almost a magical experience that, you know, there's a connection between the animals and the children that is just unbelievable. Volunteers for Wildlife!
The legacy of Volunteers for Wildlife is founded on our outstanding wildlife education programs. Getting close to these animals inspires a heartfelt connection to the magnificence and wonder of nature. This is why we work in collaboration with groups that focus on preserving open land, clean water, and our natural heritage. Even though we have a very small salaried staff and a very large volunteer network, our expenses still run close to $200,000 per year. Wildlife rehabbers are prohibited by law from charging for services, so we rely on donations, memberships, and the generosity of friends like you.